Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Talking Skritt. I'm your host John, better known as Dale around Yak's Band. Fantastic show for you. Another dev leaves ArenaNet, more balance in this week's patch, and cinematics on Guild Chat, and much more. But first, let me introduce you to my fellow hosts. He is moderator over at MMO Champion and host of Zero to Hero on this very channel. We will be waiting to hear how he will end up in this PvP season, and if he could truly walk the talk. Say hello to Jim.
Probably high silver 3, but I'm pretty sure that's because PvP population is on the decline, and that's kind of screwing with matchmaking. So stuff is real swingy. I'm hoping to grind out a whole bunch of matches to at least stabilize in Gold 1, because, I mean, I hit Gold 3 last season. I'd like to at least get back there, but
The level of concern. And she writes for MMORPG.com and also her own site, MMORly.com. With a lighter news week, I hope her roar doesn't turn into a yawn. Say hello to Robin. No!
too late.
Let's wrap it up. It's all over.
Yep, we're done.
All right. Well, like we said, it is a lighter news week, but I think the topics within them are kind of... I think some of them are interesting, like kind of, you know, this one, like we said in the intro, another dev leaves ArenaNet. Unfortunate. Well, I don't want to say unfortunately. It wasn't like bad, you know, at least from what it sounds like. You know, it wasn't like any like hostility or anything. It sounds like they're moving on to a possibly better thing. They really didn't say what they were going to do, but so I don't want to make it sound like a bad thing, but you know, it is sad to see someone leave the game. I was just going to say, if you're wondering...
Because you just kept saying they, and then I was like...
You know, moving on, let's talk about the May 26th. But it was game designer Roy Kronecker. Kronecker. I was trying to... What?
Kronecker, not Kronecker.
I thought it had an R in there. Okay. Kronecker. Oh, okay. Sorry. They left ArenaNet. His last day was on Friday. I think he sent out the tweet actually either late last night or early morning or something, but most notably worked on like the Revenant profession for Hot, but if you go on like the Reddit post, someone put a thing on Reddit and has a whole list of, you know, a lot of stuff that he had his, you know, hands on with stuff. But
design and implementation of the elite specialization system.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to talk about a guy who helped work on something that changed the face of the game, there you go.
Yeah. Yep. He's pretty awesome. I'm sad to see him go, but I'm really curious about what he's going to go do next.
He's going to work for Amazon.
I know. I was thinking that.
Maybe he'll help them unshelve one game.
It's like
hiring a community manager for New World, so maybe they're ramping that up.
So they can shelve it too, or how's that? I don't want to say that because that speaks bad for actual dev. That's actually jobs and stuff, but
yeah.
Well, what? It's like ArenaNet's becoming the farm team for Amazon. Just
becoming.
I'm putting this out there. I have literally no knowledge of where Roy is going. I just threw that out there as a joke.
I don't think they've said anything about it, but
so many ANet devs have gone to Amazon. I'm just saying that as a joke. I have no knowledge at all. I say that on the internet because someone will take it seriously.
Yeah. I think all he tweeted out was, "Today marks my last day working at ArenaNet. It's hard to move on, but it's time for a new adventure. I'll always cherish my time here. Thanks for giving me the chance to get into the industry and letting me work on such amazing projects and with such talented people." So it's, you know, and honestly, was this like his kind of first entry into the game industry? That's what it at least sounds like.
I was gonna say, I think this was, I don't know if he had other game industry jobs, but I think this was the first one where he really got to do design.
I was gonna say, and kind of like what we were saying, the stuff that he worked on, like, wow, he he set the bar high for, you know, like I can't wait to see where he goes and what else he's gonna do. So
whoever's gonna fill his, and then the other thing is Heart of Thorns was the elite specialization system. Path of Fire, design and implementation of mounts.
Yep. He had a lot to do with mounts from the very beginning of how they would work or what they would be, like how they would be different from other games. So that was really his baby.
Mm-hmm. So,
which was great.
Yeah, and he, you know, I remember seeing him for a lot of those 3-hour balance thing, balance.
God, yeah, I remember those
streams. So, you know, he was on the balance team, and like I said, I think a lot of it was for the Revenant, but I think he also did a couple of the other professions, if I'm not mistaken, or at least assisted. But
I really missed those.
Me too.
I don't know if the ArenaNet does do. They're like, oh, there goes like.
I mean, yeah.
They were long.
Yeah.
Took a lot of time out of their day.
At least if you're doing all of them in one go, because I mean, maybe if they know it's leading up to like a balance patch, maybe like if they can do one a day, but I don't know how intensive that is for the person that has to run the stream, because I know they have the person that's operating behind it. I don't know who, but so, but yeah, that's that, you know, like we said, it's sad to see a dev go, but in this situation, you know, it's for bigger and better things, and there was no hostility, so, you know.
Well, I wouldn't say better necessarily, because like, how do you
true
make those things? But definitely
new adventures. Yeah.
Nothing. There was no bad blood. This is good thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just looking for something different, basically.
Yeah. And like we said, he was on the balance team, but I wonder if this was the last balance he touched. Was this last update we had in the patch notes?
His last balance update was to kick Mesmers in the shins.
On my way out.
He pushed the Mesmer over on his way out. Oh yeah, like Carnifex says, new adventures in the new world. Ooh, we're going back. So once again, we have no clue if he's going to Amazon Game Studios. If we have to stress that again.
Not to totally get off topic, but we still know like literally nothing about New World other than it's an MMO, right?
And then it's like colonial, but also has the like witch fantasy magic. But yeah, that's it.
What was that, Mel? I didn't hear you.
It is a game.
Oh, okay, cool. Yay. It's a game.
I don't know. Amazon could just be like, you know what? We're turning this into an Amazon Prime show, TV series.
This is now an Amazon Prime exclusive TV series.
It'll be like Defiance. So you can go visit your characters when they leave the show for a little while. I'm gonna go over here for 5 minutes and be on a game for a little bit while I go on vacation. I'll be back in 2 episodes. Anyway, we're totally going off the rails. But yeah, the May 22nd patch notes, a lot of it was just kind of in the sense of balance, kind of just bug fixes. So, but the only thing that really changed was some stuff for the Mesmer and like some stuff for the Ranger, and then one thing for the Thief, which I think Age was even talking about. It was for Thief, Silent Scope. This trait now works outside of combat. Stealth is applied at the end of a dodge roll instead of at the beginning. Added additional effect particles to show when stealth is applied. But I remember Age saying that his sentiment on it was that still doesn't help enough. Like, makes rifle that viable to go for, if I'm not mistaken.
He was saying that it's still a little awkward to use rifle. That hasn't really been fixed.
Oh,
it honestly, like, to me, it honestly is starting to feel like they need to take Death's Judgment, and as much as I know people like Shadow Meld, replace Shadow Meld with Death's Judgment.
Yeah.
And make Death's Judgment a utility skill that is like, maybe it can change attacks based on the weapon you have, but still have it be this high cooldown, high damage, integrates with traits effect. Because to be honest, Shadow Meld is really only exciting because of how it interacts with all of your stealth abilities. Shadow Meld by itself is not very exciting, and it kind of feel like an elite skill needs to be exciting by itself.
Yeah.
So maybe make the rifle, like, get Death's Judgment out of the rifle, so that it's kind of like when I complained about shortbow for thieves, is that shortbow 5 is the blink, is so powerful that the rest of shortbow is really boring.
Mm-hmm.
So Death's Judgment is so powerful that the rest of rifle is kind of boring.
Yeah.
So change that. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. Maybe this is a small step towards other things, but you know, we can be hopeful. Since I know you probably want to talk about Mesmer, we'll probably save that for last because that'll probably just be where the chunk of it is. Like we said, the only other one besides those two was Ranger, and K9 Crippling Leap slightly increased this skill's travel range. K9 Brutal Charge for the Soul Beast slightly increased this skill's travel range. Porcine Brutal Charge, like, basically it looks like a lot of this slightly increase the skill's travel range, but so it doesn't seem like too much, like, in the way of it feels like it's just minor tweaks.
The K9 the Soul Beast skills, minor changes. It was the Iboga.
Mm-hmm.
That damage nerf was needed because Ibogas were out damaging players.
Yeah.
Like, the pet was out damaging players.
Yeah. It was pretty funny, I think, honestly.
So
yeah,
it was kind of silly. But that's about it. The other changes are minor usability tweaks, quality of life stuff.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the only other one that kind of really received changes besides bug fixes and stuff, the Mesmer. So
I got you, fam.
Did they make the Mesmer better after, you know, hurting them so bad in the last balance patch?
Pretty much all of these changes are warranted.
Yeah.
All of them are nerfs.
Ooh.
So, Bountiful Disillusionment is the one inspiration skill. It's an inspiration grandmaster that gives you boons, and boons based on the shatter used and stability when any shatter is used. They reduce the stability from 3 seconds to 1 second. Basically, you have to be better in order to avoid CC. Okay, increase skill cap. That's great. Phantasmal Defender, Disenchanter, Warlock, and the Echo of Memory, which is the skill 4 on Chronomancer Shield, all receive 50% damage nerfs. Now, Disenchanter, Defender, and the one off of Echo of Memory, these are all soft CC or hard CC phantasms. Reducing their damage, I think, is perfectly viable. Like, that's fine. Mm-hmm. I really don't care about that because you really just want the utility off the phantasms, not necessarily the damage.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything for the utility, the CC they inflict, the conditions they have. It's fine. The Phantasmal Warlock is the skill 3 on Staff, and that is the one that spawns 2 phantasms that do a laser effect, and they do 3 ticks of damage each and apply, I think, 2 stack of vulnerability every hit. Now, you could argue that putting that much vuln on in roughly 1.5 to 2 seconds is a big deal, but so many people have so many sources of vulnerability that I really don't know that there's that big a deal to it. I don't think Staff really needed the damage nerf. Like, I thought Illusionary Warlock was just fine. So if there's anything that's going to get rolled back on Mesmer, I think this one should be it, because I feel like there's really no reason to strip out. I suppose the only thing they could be saying is that the fact that it's got a fairly low cooldown. I think it's 6 or 8 seconds. It's not too long. So maybe they just thought that the availability of it justified the damage nerf. The final one was Illusionary Defense, which was just flat damage reduction every time you spawned an illusion. It was 5% per stack, capped at 5, so 25% damage reduction. They reduced the percent to 2. So it went from 25% to 10%. This is a big hit, but on a class that has so many active defense options, you have crazy amounts of I can't remember what the defensive shatter is, what the effect is. Chat, help me out here. Shatter 4. I'll let them figure it out. The mesmer, like the shield, a lot of block, a lot of stun. There's a lot of evades. Distortion. Thank you, Savage. Yeah, there's just so many active defenses inherent in the mesmer that something that is a flat damage reduction buff, which if you're actively playing in the middle of a fight, you're going to cap that. So it's just that trait was literally giving Mesmer a 25% damage reduction just for existing in a fight. It's a lot of power. It's not like you had to fight to keep the stacks up. So I see that nerf is probably necessary. So all in all, the only nerf I really see as questionable is staff 3 damage nerf in PvP and WW. Everything else was perfectly acceptable.
Well, also in the patch notes, speaking of PvP and WW, the PvP lobby, they got the free-for-all arena has been expanded, and they have placed benches around the map. So
the free-for-all lobby, I was wandering around that area, and there is a little, like, you know how there's the doorway and it's wibbly wobbly, like that indicates there's a portal, elevator, whatever it is there to go through. So I went through it, figuring, you know, I'd go down there and then I could come right back up. Yeah, you get down to the bottom, there's no way up.
They got rid of the exit portal.
Yeah, you go into the free-for-all portal or area, you're there until you just like jump off the edge.
But let me guess, it worked kind of like this, like, oh, I want to check it out. Ah!
Pretty much. I was on stream with him and I was like, oh my God, because there were a bunch of people there fighting and I was like, nobody look at me. I don't want to fight. I just want to leave.
Generally speaking, people don't go after you if you just walk in unless you attack them first.
Yeah. So, well, that's what I was hoping, and nobody bothered me whatsoever. I was just freaking out because I was like, I'm somewhere I didn't intend to be stuck here, and I don't want to die.
You're like that person, like at the soccer game, like streaking on the pitch. It's just like you just ran across, like, don't hurt me.
Except for I'm like, I don't know how I got here. Why?
Well, I have to wonder if some of those streakers wonder how they got there too.
It's true.
I have one complaint about the expanded free-for-all area.
Yeah.
Oh.
It ruins the view on my favorite balcony in the Heart of the Mists.
Yeah.
Because the arena island is like, I want to say 80% bigger now. And it just takes up the entire skyline of where I like to stand for Zero to Hero. So,
yeah.
ANet, you've gone too far.
The other thing that Val discovered this week was that if you're sitting on one of the benches or chairs, you can't open any of your boxes that you get.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. Apparently sitting makes it impossible for you to open boxes.
I don't know if that's a global thing or if that's just another quirk of the PvP lobby, because there are many items that you cannot. You actually used to not be able to open spirit shard bags.
Oh gosh.
In the PvP lobby. So, yeah, it might just be a quirk of the PvP lobby. I'd have to take one of my boxes to somewhere in the overworld and sit down and try and open.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned about shards. They're not spirit shards, but in World versus World, players can now get a Grandmaster Mark shard from the final bronze, silver, and gold skirmish chests. If a player collects 10 shards, they can trade them with the skirmish supervisor for Grandmaster marks. So this is, I guess, one way to deal with the armor mark things for ascended stuff, which
I really wish they would just abandon the whole system.
Yeah, I was gonna say we put in a system to make it more complicated and now like harder to obtain, and now we're just adding things to make it easier to obtain through. It's like, go back to the other one. Like it was already like you complicated it, and now we're making it less easier to obtain the complicated thing. It's like
I have bought a dagger with the marks, and that's from the few chests that I've gotten at the end of the PvP hip reward track.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me. I noticed in the PvP lobby there's ascended weapon and armor vendors in there. Why? Because
that's the PvP skins.
Oh, it's just the skin, it's not actual armor?
You can buy the skin, but those vendors sell them at exotic rarity, and that's just the skin item. You can get gear with stats on it that is ascended quality, and I think they have the same system in that you can turn that into legendary.
Oh, okay.
In PvP.
Yeah, I think so.
It was one of those things where like you still have to have the marks, but then they just added the Grandmaster marks into the pip reward track at the end, and I don't care. I don't care enough to craft them.
Yeah.
As long as I play, I will, 1, make more money, and 2, get the gear anyway.
Yeah, I was just confused because, like, for PvP, especially, like, your gear level, like, the quality doesn't matter.
Yep.
So I was just, when I was wandering around and there was a vendor who sold ascended gear, I was like, why?
I think it's pretty much, they will always have that available to let you transition into other game modes. Because say you're playing in PvP and you've been playing PvP for, I don't know, since the game launched. And then you're like, maybe I want to try PvE. Maybe I want to try raiding or something. Yeah. And then you suddenly go to raiding and you have your level 1 white gear.
Yeah, that's true.
So I can kind of understand that. And breadcrumbing, I talk about it a lot, just trying to get people into other game modes. But
no, it's an important thing to do in every game. So that makes sense.
I hate the fact that they try to include crafting into PvP and WW without putting crafting stations in those.
Yeah.
Games.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, Savage is even saying that apparently that stuff doesn't go in the wallet or material storage. So. Yeah, here we go again. More stuff.
Thankfully, the choosy boxes that you get out of these, I don't know about the WW ones because I'm pretty sure you just trade the shards in and you get the whole one out. The choosy boxes you get out of PvP stack. So I'm literally just going to have a stack of the choosy boxes for PvP just sit in my bank. So at least I only have 1 slot taking up for that.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, guys. That's probably a smart way to do it. So, because all that stuff is valuable, all that storage space. But you know, you were talking about like how the PvP, the free for all arena, kind of ruins your view, and like that's where you like to sit up there for the stream. You know, like recording that nice view, very cinematic.
Really? Yeah, super cinematic. It's great.
Yeah. Speaking of cinematic,
oh no,
on Guild Chat, they this past week they had the cinematics team on there. And the team consisted of, at least on the stream, there might be more, but Chelsea Shooter, cinematic lead. I'm probably going to butcher these names. I tried listening to them earlier, but now I forget.
I know.
Chris Burgess, sound design, and Jason Byfield, cinematic artist. And then, of course, Ruby hosting.
Ruby!
That is the correct response.
As usual, I didn't have a chance to watch, not because I was at work, but because I was probably asleep because I stayed at home yesterday because I wasn't feeling super great. I continue to say I appreciate the fact that they do this.
Yeah.
My only problem is I really don't have much to comment on the whole cinematic team because I don't think I've ever disliked a cinematic from Guild Wars 2.
They've been good. I think the last one for a bug in the system is probably the best one they've done. And I think progressively over the span of the game, they've been getting better and better.
I think the only questionable one I have is the use of slow-mo in the Heart of Thorns one with the packed fleet firing on the jungle.
Oh, fire!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really like my only complaint of the cinematics team.
Yeah.
So I mean, good on you.
The Heart of Thorns one though still has one of my favorite moments that I just want to like get a capture of and print out. Like like put it on a big wall. And it's the one where Ritlock's fighting the big dude and he goes off the side and Ritlock's walking away and then it comes up behind him and then there's this moment right before Ritlock looks back where he just kind of stops and it's looming over him and it's like this very little 2-second moment and I just want that like in a big giant poster form. Like it's amazing.
That was I honestly really liked that trailer and I was kind of disappointed that had no bearing on the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of go into detail of like what Robin was saying, like bugging the system, the most recent trailer. But like it was interesting to hear like them tossing around ideas and also coming up with the Fear Not This Night song and initially using it for the trailer and then also making the like the deep south one type of thing. Like they were talking about that and talking back and forth of like how they were doing the voices for it and they were like, okay, let's just do it already. Like we're already like mainly rewriting this song, we might as well just record it anyway. And but it once again, if you're I think we recommend it every time if you're a fan of like maybe behind the scenes stuff, like if you always go after the collector's editions for those, they used to have those like behind the scenes or like making of the game or movie or whatever. Definitely check these out. Or if you are considering getting into the industry, like definitely try to make sure to show up live because they always take questions and you can always so
I'm sad that I missed it too because I actually left work early on Friday and fell asleep when I got home and woke up and I was like, dang it, missed it. So, but yeah, it's always worth tuning in. And sometimes they have little surprises. Like before the last one, they played the full new version of Fear Not This Night, which they didn't tell anybody they were going to do before it. And it was awesome.
So definitely recommend checking it out. And they usually announce it ahead of time, like within the week of saying like, oh, we're gonna have this team on. So like I said, if you are a particular fan of or want to know more about a certain topic, if they are doing that one, definitely try to tune in live to ask questions, or it usually goes up on their YouTube, I think, pretty quick now because I think they stream to both now, so I think it'll go up there pretty much instantly. So definitely worth checking out.
I get notifications that they're live on YouTube, so they are doing both usually.
Cool. Speaking of asking questions to the devs, we just this past week had another ArenaNet Forum Chat for May, and the topic was the original Guild Wars, a retrospective. They said, join us to ask questions, ponder mysteries, share your stories and impressions. The sub forum opened on May 23rd, 2018, and it closed on Friday afternoon, May 25th, 2018. The dev participation period will still be going, they said, from May 23rd through roughly June 15th. So if you left any questions there, keep checking back. They, are probably working their way through answering the ones they can, or, but yeah, I'm curious, did anything grab your guys' eyes? And, if you went through there, or maybe you had a topic that did get an answer, or maybe didn't get an answer, and,
Arlie, if you have anything, I'd rather let you go first because mine's more of a meta topic on this whole system.
No, I don't. So go ahead.
So I love, first I want to say I love the fact that they're doing this. I love the fact that they do these more long form chats. It's great. None of the topics have grabbed me yet. Literally nothing has come out yet that has made me want to log into their forums and post, which I kind of feel bad about, but I'm also fairly certain that the topics that I want to see them talk about will never be talked about on the forum.
And I think that's the problem with probably a lot of, probably people's questions. Like, even within these topics, there's probably some that they probably can't talk about, or It's
they're limited on what they can say too. And even like, I think sometimes there are things that they can answer, but it's hard. So one of the hard things about being a dev on a game like this, where you're working ahead of what's out by a good margin, is it's easy to lose track of what's been announced, what is actually out, because you get used to the version of the game you're working on where things are there. So I think it's generally better to err on the side of caution and just not say something, even though if it turns out that, oh, you could have said that, because it's really difficult to keep all of that straight. There's so much.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you can even get, I for some reason, this one popped in my head of, maybe it's because everybody always, and rightfully so, like could put Colin on like a pedestal of like, oh, he was the greatest. But I think it was an interview with him or something where he accidentally let like the name Mordremoth slip early. And I just could imagine him just sitting there and he's like, oh yeah, that's a concept art from Mordremoth. They're like, who? He's like, I'm sorry, what?
Yep.
No. But it's like one of those things, like there's so many things going on in your head, and like you're saying, if you're in an interview, you're trying to say, you're probably thinking of like maybe a couple questions ahead, like, okay, I remember I can't talk about this, and then you just see that artwork and you're like, oh hey, that's Mordremoth. What?
Yeah, so it's complicated. I mean, I like the concept. It's cool that we get to do it. Just because we do get some really cool things. Like with the lore one, we got that long explanation from Jessica Price about Bram and his character and what they've been doing for the last season into this season with him, which I think helped a lot of people to understand him better.
Making him infinitely less punchable.
Yeah. Just making him more of a rail-rounded character of why he was doing the things he was doing, because most of, and this was my thing, I've been yelling about this for over a year at this point, but for people who didn't see the setup of everything with him and read his story before he joined us, you're missing a big part of what made it, all of that make sense. So it's great that we get things like that, but I wish
something we talked about before is that a lot of the intro for Dragon's Watch is basically just in blog posts.
Yep. Well, they all had their individual stories, which filled out more about them. But then we also, when we met them, you found out more about them as well and their backstories and all of that. But none of that's replayable because that was all season one. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that go into it. Like one of the things that we did in early season one was when we met up with Rox, she found Frostbite in that little dungeon thing we were doing where we were clearing out the flame, not flame. Yes, that. I'm like, not Flame Legion, the other thing. The Molten Alliance people. That's where she got Frostbite. And like anybody who's missed that whole like bonding with him and her whole thing about how she lost her previous pet and her warped band and all of that. And it really changes how people interpret the characters. So,
and just to answer Lynn's thing, I do know that there was that section in the Inquest Lab that was, of course, the last kind of natural element of like kind of nature, and they didn't have a name for it. But then there was the monster that casted a spell that had the name Mordremoth in it. Like those were just such small breadcrumbs, and I wouldn't consider Living World Season 1 as a hint towards it, because that was where they were building up the story for Mordremoth. I mean, it basically was Season 1 or Living World Season 1 and 2 was leading into. What's that?
What's a dungeon boss?
It's like a fractal.
Womp womp.
But no, I was asking Jim this question earlier. Was like, I like the Arena Forum chats, but looking at, we've had 3 so far. March 2018, Living World Season 4 Episode 2. That was just kind of like a perfect storm, and I liked that one because it, instead of, well, they also did the AMA on Reddit, but of course that's always day of, and it's like, well, I don't want to look at this because of spoilers, or it's like, okay, only a handful of people have gotten to play it already. And this one was like, I think the following Friday. So you had a little bit of time to play with it. And so I enjoyed that. But I think my ultimate question was, okay, this matched up perfectly, but we're on a 2 to 3 month cadence of this stuff. What are they going to do to, fill in those gaps here? And, the second one was Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2 lore. And then this one was Guild Wars original. I just kind of like looked at Jim and was like, did they already run out of ideas? Like, it just feels like the last two could have kind of been the same.
Well, that's why I brought up the, they're limited. I think that was my answer to you before we brought the show up, is that it's just, they only have so many things they can really talk about in such an open way. Like they can't do a forum chat on WVW because there's a lot of WVW stuff being done behind the scenes that we kind of have an idea that they're actually doing because they did that big blog post. God, is that 6 or 7 months now that they did that?
Yeah.
Time flies, I guess. But that big blog post about the new alliance system for World versus World. So clearly they're doing something, but then it runs afoul of what Arlie was talking about, where their version of the game is not our version of the game, and they only have so much that they're actually allowed to talk about. So instead of accidentally letting something slip, they just don't talk about it.
Yep.
Because while it's in development, it could all just, like, they could spend so much time developing on a thing and then just not end up running into an issue where they can't implement it, and then it goes away. So when they talk about it prior to, it's kind of like when Sword was data mined for Tempest. And people were like, oh my God, we're getting a sword. And then it released and you got a Warhorn.
Yeah.
We're like, we got a fucking Warhorn? What the hell? It's just like...
Which, in that case too, the Warhorn skills were really, I liked them. They were interesting and they were cool, but because people had gotten so hyped for a sword that they were just disappointed, which is my thing with data mining. It's great and all, but you should always take it with a grain of salt, because just because it's in the files doesn't mean we're getting it anytime soon.
Yeah. And then the thing is, I really think Warhorn only worked for Elementalists because you get 4 times the normal skills.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason, like, you get 8 instead of 2. That's the only reason it was anywhere near, tolerable.
Yeah, but they were also interesting skills in and of themselves, like the way they worked and stuff. I liked them.
You can still do it, Savage. It still does good DPS.
Yeah. I still wish I could do Sword Warhorn. I really wanted that. I was like all for that.
And then you're just like, wait.
And then my brain connected everything. I was like, all right.
Can you imagine having attunements, having overloads and double attunement, and having to manage that?
That'd be a nightmare.
Just no.
Yeah, no.
But honestly, I think this sums up basically ultimately the problem with doing lore speculation. I would say they might have to just use these ArenaNet forum chats as more of maybe looking at game mechanics, what maybe people want, because and it's basically what we've been saying is they can't speculate with us. They're like, that does sound cool.
Yeah.
But there was a post, Return of Raza, and someone was asking about it, and people are like, oh yeah, it would be awesome to see Raza. I'm hoping my warrior from Guild Wars 1 taught him well. But one of the ArenaNet devs replied back, it's tough to talk about future content because if something is planned, obviously I won't want to spoil it. Yeah. If it's not planned and I say that, it's disappointing to you. And realistically, not planned doesn't mean won't ever happen. It's so, it's yeah, when are you guys gonna do this? Possibly someday, but maybe not. It's
oh, actually, another thing that came out in the lore one was apparently Matthew Medina had written a I don't know if short story is the right word for it, but a not in-game story of what happened with Malik was his name?
Malik, the guy from the other tree in the.
Okay, my brain was just like, maybe not.
Well, it's kind of confusing because you had Malik, but then you also have the demon Malix. Like,
that's what I was thinking. I was, wait a minute. So in all of that, and it never was published, and now I was like, can we please just publish it? Please?
Maybe just throw it out on the internet somewhere, leak it.
Yeah.
Oh,
they leak it like the Deadpool stuff. What? Go ahead.
They need something like the I can't remember what the actual site name is, but League of Legends has, since League of Legends it's a MOBA, there's really not a lot of opportunity to tell story in a 30 to 45 minute game where it's just straight PvP all the time. They have a League Universe website where you get all of the story, and that's where they post new stuff, and they'll go through and they'll alter stuff to they kind of need something like that for Guild Wars 2, where if the writers have something but they can't incorporate it in the game, they can instead put it there, and that would be a really good place to just gather all of the written stuff that is not in game, like all of those original bios for Dragon's Watch.
Yeah, well, I had a conversation with him on Twitter about it afterwards, because I literally tweeted, I was like, can we please just put it out there? And one of the points he made, and if you think about it, over the course of the game, they've moved further and further away from doing things outside of the game, like story explanation, story stuff outside of the game, and they're trying to do
like the blog
more
posts
and more. Everything as much as possible in the game. So one of the reasons they didn't publish it was because that they want to be able to do it in some way in the game. So it's like, it's something they'd still like to do. But they realize that making people go to other places aside from the game to get parts of the story is not optimal.
It would be like they kind of need to breadcrumb it out of something in game.
Yeah.
And it's like they had the story bits for what was the Asura and her Moa?
Oh, Momo.
The stories of like Momo, and it's just like you had that, but then I just realized it's been a while since the last one was published. I don't know. Like I look at stuff and I think just it needs something. Like they need. It's kind of like I complain about the gem store, and it's like they talk about how the interface isn't set up for having a large number of items. Well, we'll fix the interface then. It's like you say it's bad, and it's just like you're literally admitting that there's something wrong with your game. Do something about it.
Well, I mean, they have updated it, and it is much better than it was originally. So there's that.
Yeah.
They're making improvements, but yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine there's someone that's like working on the in the background that, I mean, because they're not gonna come out every week and go, okay, this like to us at least, this department, they're making a little bit of headway, but nothing, newsworthy. It's like they squashed a bug.
Imagine if like every month ArenaNet did an update where they went through each department and just said, this is what they're working on, and this is what these guys are working on. How crazy would that
Ruby,
be?
make that a guild chat where you just parade each team out, and it's like almost like judgment. This is what they have worked on this month. This is what they have completed.
Or no good.
Yeah, it's almost like a quarterly like review, like just parade them out.
This is your quarterly roast by the fans.
Look at chat, read the chat, and take it in.
Look at it. Look at your shame.
Yay.
And then Joel will just have none of it. But anyway, so we were talking about. I think I brought this up so many times, but we were talking about the like putting more stuff in the gem store. Would you guys be opposed if they created actual story content, not like living story that would continue the current events or whatever, what have you, but like maybe side story stuff that maybe they wouldn't get to, but they could turn it. It's instantly a buyable thing. Like, it's not like it unlocks if you're on in game. Basically, what I'm getting at is what they had in Guild Wars 1, the bonus mission packs, where it was like kind of middle ground stuff that behind, that was happening alongside, or it was far back in history, just giving you a chance to live that experience. But it wasn't like, oh, since you were logged in the game during that time, it gives them an incentive because they'll actually either make money or, people transferring the gold to gems but
yeah, I'd prefer they not do something like that. That would just annoy me. I think it's just kind of like, I don't know. I'm used to a lot like just logging in and getting the story. Like, I mean, I don't mind like paying for that but at the same time, I'm like, I'd rather buy cosmetic things and just get story stuff.
Well, but what I mean is you're going to get the main story. Like, it's still going to continue in that trajectory. But like, say if they wanted to do the Maliks.
All of the story. I don't care how sided it is. I want all of it. I want all the stories.
Yeah, bonus mission pack Ritlock. But they could even do it like the living story, since it's already that system in place where if you have it, or if you go, you can go into a friend's instance, you just don't get the maybe there's cosmetic rewards attached to it. You don't get the cosmetic reward out of it, but you could still see the content if you so desire. I mean,
legitimately, you could just find someone who streamed the video on YouTube and then just watch that.
Yeah, but I want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. No, like, I get that. That's kind of like what the current events are, only they would be more involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and possibly not like I said, could we possibly finally get a Malik side thing if they know they could potentially make money off it? Because I mean, in the end, they are a business. They want to,
I don't think it's a question of like them making money on it or not. I think it's legitimately like the amount of time that it would take to implement a side thing like that and what it would do. Like, if they have the people to do it, and if it would push back living story more or the next expansion or whatever. There's trade-offs. Like, even when we got the redo of Heart of Thorns, where they went back to the maps and updated things and made changes and fixed a lot of the things that made Heart of Thorns much better, that came at a cost. Mm-hmm. I think it's part of why we got such a long wait before Living Story started up again, because there was a substantial amount of work that went into that. So, like, I mean, if they could hire a whole team just to do side stories, I don't know whether it'd be worthwhile for them to do that or not. But I don't know.
In the end, put them in. My other idea is, I mean, this was a way for them to actually make a little bit of money off of it, but more fractal stories that are random, because this is the beauty of the fractals. The myths, it's like every possibility. So we could have a storyline that technically isn't canonical. It's like, but it is in some version or something. So we could play out these weird, theories and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. I just like to see more of that if we're going the fractal route over dungeon route.
Yeah.
But
it's one of those things where I think the fractal team also has to consider the inevitability of the fact that they are going to have a random fractal appear on a given level at some point. Because eventually, the system was designed to be expandable, but eventually you're going to get to a point where there are more than 25 fractals.
Yeah.
So, like, in every tier, you're going to have a branch in some of the levels.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for a while, wondering like what's going to happen when they get to that point. Because when they redid it, they did build in a little bit of room for growth, but it's still limited room for growth. So I don't know. I don't know what their plan is.
They're going to make it look like a slot machine, and you set the difficulty, what tier you want it at. You can then select you randomly get the map, you randomly get the instability, and I don't know what else is there that could be. That's probably the only two things that could really be, but
yeah,
pretty much.
Oh. But I did see earlier, I think it was Zlint talking about with like kind of the expansion content, like would like to see it stretched out a little bit longer, just because like they're saying, and I think this is also on the gamers, because in the end it's, you know, you can't expect the devs to be like, devs make, you know, content that's guaranteed to last, you know, 100 hours. They're gonna it's gonna be a lot of boring fetch quests. I mean,
or just straight out time gated stuff, like stuff you have to do daily. And that's one of the unfortunate side effects of people wanting content stretched out. Is like, it's really difficult to have 100 hours. Like, okay, so I'm playing God of War, or as a lot of people call it, Dad of Boy. There's a lot of exploration. There's a lot, like, the combat's good. I think I've sunk 20 hours into it so far, and I know I'm not anywhere near the end of it because I like to explore things, and I've spent a lot of time on that lake just kind of paddling around. But it's not all fresh content. Like, it's not like every time I get in the boat, I'm like, oh my god, this is so amazing. This is the best boat simulator ever. And it's just, I really don't give a shit about the boat. It's how do I get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But it's repetition, and that's how it happens. Like, I'm trying to finish the henge, the back piece from Draconis Mons, and it's just like, go do the hearts. Go do the hearts. And I have to do that literally every day. I have to go do the hearts to get the druids, the rune stones, to make the stuff, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
I've done literally everything else except for the rune stones.
Oh wow.
And it's just boring, but it's there. And we're not going to get, and I get the point of like what Slint was talking about with the content, is that it seemed really frantic, and you could blow through it all in basically a day for the expansion story. But they don't do a very good job of really showing you how much time occurs between each chapter of the story. And I think if they did a better job of, like, we don't know how long the commander was dead. That I don't remember anyone saying anything about it.
No, like the way it came across to me, it came across as being a fairly short amount of time, but like, I mean, it could have been anything really.
Like they could have done something really cool with that, because I know you come to and the rest of your friends are showing up after you had radioed them for help. Like it could have been like you wake up in your funeral or something. And I honestly think that would have been pretty amazing, because then you would have had somebody like say that, you know, you're Sylvari, and then you're there with like some of the firstborn, or like you're human and Queen Jenna is literally standing there, because it's like you were the commander, but you were also insert race here. So the racial leader is like saying something as part of your eulogy, because that would make sense. You were a Paragon race. And then you just kind of, and then Jenna stops in the middle of her speech, and she's just like,
so all of our characters are going to pull a Captain Jack Harkness. Like that is the quintessential returning to life. Like you just haven't breathed for a good long time. But no, you're right. I think that would have been cool, because I'm starting to think, like, because I mostly play Norn, and I'm like going back to the air situation where you're having like the thing around them, like they're doing that in your home, and everybody's like, oh yeah, she was a great war. What the heck? Like, oh, hey guys, what did I miss?
And,
like,
then you as Norn's like, guys, I fought death.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that would have been pretty interesting. Yeah, honestly, originally that's what I was kind of thinking. Uncultured Savage is like Commander gets buried and then an arm erupts out of the ground, or something like. It's like, yeah, they gotta be careful about how to portray the passing time. It's like, oh yeah, you started decaying. Like, it's like.
I think that's kind of where they would have had to draw the line. So it's like, you're not going to go that far, but you know, with Sylvari, that would just be, you know, your second growing. So
silly cabbages.
Yeah, but I think that's my only complaint is with the story is that it feels frantic, but that's because every episode feels like it takes place immediately after.
Yeah, because we immediately go there and it's...
Well, there was some of that problem too in Heart of Thorns, where we ran into things where things were happening sequentially, but it didn't really convey how long it took. And one of the things that was also confusing in that one was you had an instance thing that is supposed to be taking place at the same time as a real out in the world thing is happening. And it's hinted at, but never directly said. So.
Right. The Mouth of Mordremoth fight happens while Hearts and Minds is happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's honestly, it feels like it's better paced when it's the living story chapters. But then I figure, if you're on a new character and you're rolling through them, it's going to be the same problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything will start blending.
Well, can't wait to see what their next topic is for ArenaNet Forum Chats. Like, I just kind of curious of which direction it's going to go. I mean, like I said, I was slightly worried of it's like what I feel like the last two ones were pretty similar. So I'm curious to see what kind of other ones they have, but I think it's also how the transitions work. Yep, transitions are always important. Speaking of transitioning, let's transition over to the Jump Store. Thank you, chat.
Wow, I put my headphones back in for that?
Yes,
yeah, you did. I had nothing either, but thank you, chat. So let's talk about the Gem Store, and thank you to Dolphy.net. Check out Dolphy.net so you can spend your gems more wisely. I can't wait to look over at chat and see how mad they are. First up, we have the Elonian Elementalist outfit, and it is an outfit for 700 gems, so you can hide the head slot, but it is all or nothing. But so I'm kind of curious, what are your guys' thoughts on the Elonian Elementalist outfit?
Leg hanging out on that one.
Yeah, it's a very like I Dream of Genie-esque type thing.
Yeah. Jeez.
And as Carnifex said, the human female meta has gotten an upgrade.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen some people like are super excited for it. And I've seen some people do some pretty cool things with, like, dye it really nicely. But yeah, I'm kind of hitting an issue of it just wouldn't be part of any of my characters, like their backstory. But
Savage, you will take your magical floating armaments and like them, along with your mark shards.
Whoa, the Azura one is like completely different.
They actually have a male-female split on the Azura.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, just not the Char, unfortunately.
Yeah, the Char don't get it, but the Azura do.
Interesting.
Well, there's clipping issues. Sorry, had to. But yeah, so
you didn't, but you did anyway.
True. I gotta be me. But yeah, so you can pick that up for 700 gems. It does unlock on your account. Doesn't use transmutation charges, so there are perks to it, but it is an outfit. Just keep that in mind.
Yep.
That was really the only new thing out of the Gem Store, but they have brought back some limited time stuff. The Spooky Mounts pack for 1,600 gems, which comes with 5 mounts, one for each. And these are mount skins. Don't think it unlocks the mount for your account. It's just skins, but it kind of has that bone pattern. If you don't have a mount
unlocked, you get the skin, and then when you unlock the mount, you can use it.
Yes. Very, very true. It's not going to be like you missed your opportunity, like you have to unlock everything first. You're good to go. Also, the Zodiac weapon skins are back for 3 Black Line claim tickets, and the Dominator weapon skins are back for 3 Black Line claim tickets. So, with these things, are any of you gonna attempt to go grab those?
I wish they didn't come back for 3. Like,
yeah,
it's my.
I don't buy Black Lion keys, so I don't have Black Lion tickets, and I don't have the gold. I don't have the time to farm the gold to buy them off the trading post. So
yeah, One weird, funny bit of trivia. I have keys right now. I have no chests. I've run out of chests.
Do you want me to send you half a stack? Because
Sure.
I will. Okay.
If you want. I was like, I think I was on Discord with Deo when it happened, and I was like, I run out of chests.
Like I keep them in my bank until I have a whole stack, and then I sell the rest of them on the trading post.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that, and I was like, no, you mean the other way around, right? Like you misspoken, right? Like,
yeah. I didn't think it would ever happen, but it happened apparently.
Even
yes.
Chat saying you keep chests.
Yes, Savage. I keep up to a stack on the off chance that like I have a key, because I don't want to wait to open it.
Yeah.
And the key is far more rare than the chest, so yeah, I know they're worth like 6 silver a piece. That's why I only save like up to a stack, and then I sell it. And then if I need emergency money, I can liquidate the chest.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something easy to get rid of.
Yep.
But I'm so not compelled by Black Lion chests. I don't feel like even getting like the Black Lion ticket skins are great, but I just don't want to gamble for them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I don't want to take a risk for them. And yeah, Chat's right. They are better than they used to be, but
yes, very true.
That was a low bar.
Yeah, that is also very true. But any final thoughts on the gem store?
Nope.
Well, for this week in Community Corner, this one is kind of just gaming in general. And don't worry, I know we made the announcement of like, and we wouldn't generalize this podcast, but I think, and I hope everybody would make the exception here, is this past week, unfortunately, Total Biscuit, John Bain, did a little bit of Guild Wars 2 videos, not much, I think like kind of a review thing, but was kind of, I think a big driving force in the gaming community, gaming, review space, but he unfortunately passed away on Thursday, May 24th, to his cancer. But that's I know on Reddit they posted, and I'll throw it in chat here, his actual it's actually his I don't think it was a WTF but it was basically him talking about the Guild Wars 2 beta, which was a while ago. But and it was like, it was one of those things where I also heard him talk about the game every once in a while on the Co-optional podcast if MMOs came up, and I don't know, he always liked the questing system in the game, that it was kind of refreshing that you kind of always had an option of it. Did you want to collect 10 bear asses, or did you want to fight something, or it kind of always had those 3 options that kind of stemmed from traditional questing, but it gave you that option that you could mix and match and still progress towards a quest or whatnot. So, but Chad, if you have any memories that you want to talk about Total Biscuit, feel free to then I'm also going to throw it over to you two, if you have any moments. Or
in general, he actually convinced me to buy a lot of games, because with the screen name like the Cynical Brit, the guy's super critical. He was super critical on games.
Yeah.
And whenever I was on the fence about something, I would see if he had done a WTF is. And one game that I actually showed up on my Steam suggested list and I thought looked cool, but I was unsure. It was Lichdom Battle Mage, which, do not buy it for console. Buy it through Steam. Buy it on PC, because the ports are horrific. We're talking like 20 frames a second during on combat. But the game itself is probably the best example of a spellcasting FPS that I think I've ever touched. And Total Biscuit went through, and this was the launch. Like a lot of the stuff he complained about, it's almost like they watched his video too, and the developers fixed the things that he said was wrong. So then, you know, there was the whole debacle with G2A that Total Biscuit did a lot of journalistic legwork on. The man was a consumer advocate and a developer advocate. And I think a lot of people appreciate him for that.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of like what Slint was saying, you know, TB taught him to be a better consumer, kind of like what you're saying. He was for the consumer, but also would give the benefit of the doubt, or, you know, be on the side of the devs as well. Like it was, you know, great. I mean,
in the war, the three-way war between producers, developers, and consumers, I'm pretty sure Total Biscuit was more of the idea that, you know, the consumers and the developers should just band together and kill the producers. So
yeah. I don't know. He definitely had some views and whatnot that I had issues with, but he did have a lot of really interesting takes on a lot of games, and definitely had an effect on everything. So, and I feel bad for his family because it sucks.
Yeah,
he was by no means a saint, but it's not a kind of thing I'd wish on anyone to deal with cancer like that.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, definitely go. You know, maybe if you're new to Guild Wars 2, check that out and see how far Guild Wars 2 has come from, because it is like, it has footage in the background of the closed betas and whatnot. So, it's definitely interesting from that perspective, or, you know, just hearing his insight. Maybe he even said something that eventually, not saying he was the one that made it change, but, you know, I do remember that, like, a lot of people shared some of the sentiment that he had with, you know, some of the stuff. So it probably just carried on. And but yeah, it was just weird for me. I found out about it because Warframe was going to do their dev thing, and they were up for 5 minutes, and when I clicked on it, by the time it was already offline, it was like, oh, it's canceled. I'm like, why? And then I saw people in chat saying, you know, Total Biscuit passed away, and I'm like, these messed up trolls, like, that's like, I just couldn't believe it. So
yeah.
But yeah, once again, it's horrible that it had to happen, and, you know, to someone so young, like, you know. But you know, send well wishes to their family, and you know, just keep gaming. That's what he would have wanted you to do, and be a intelligent consumer, and be reasonable to the devs. Don't, you know, try to understand where they're coming from as well, as best as possible, and maybe be a little cynical. But yeah, that is it for this week. So, Jim, where can they find you?
I can be found on Twitter at MalthanusMMO. You can also find me here on twitch.tv/TalkingSkrit on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for our Zero to Hero PvP night, where the season ends Tuesday. So Arlie and I will be jumping back into WW for the off season. So come join for those shenanigans where we have to relearn how to fight large groups of people instead of small groups of people. But then again, with Mesmers, you're always used to fighting large groups of people. So hope to see you all there.
Awesome. And Robin, where can they find you?
On Twitch and Twitter at Arlie82, and I write things, places. I show up randomly. You know, I'm around.
Awesome. And you can find me at simply_Dale on Twitch and Twitter. And if you are just popping at the very end, do stick around. We do have an after show. And unfortunately, Twitch is still saying we are offline, so it won't let me see who's technically hosting us, because we're technically offline, which...
By the way, this whole stream has been offline, guys.
Yeah, it's been great talking with all you people while we've been offline, Twitch. thank you everybody who is currently hosting that we for some reason can't see. But if you want to hang out with us, we do have a community Discord. Links on YouTube will be in the description and just in the information page down below on Twitch. But if you are popping in, we do highlight this on Twitch, but it will go up on our YouTube. Just search Talking Skritt is usually the first one that pops up. That's going to go up on Sundays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you can make it out to the live show, we go live Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And I think that's all the spiel, since I can't say thanks to the hosts or the Twitch hosts. But yeah, that is it for this week, and we'll see everybody next time. Take care.
Good night, friends.
Bye.